the 3-week exercise. The training is conducted by the African Union in order to evaluate the state of readiness of the African Standby Force. Let's now cross live to the scene.
Okay. Okay, while we continue with the coverage from the Lohatla Combat Training Center, where the African Standby Force is currently illustrating what they have learned throughout the 3 weeks that they've been here at the center. And right now I can tell you that the field that we're looking on right now resembles a war zone. I'm joined here by General Jaco Tienhuizen. Sorry, it is Captain. I have to get used to these ranks. Captain, can you just quickly speak us through exactly what's currently happening with all the red and the pink smoke that we see now?
Certainly, Aldrin. What has happened now, the rapid deployment capability of the African Standby Force, which consists out of Angola, Uganda, Mozambique and Namibia, has started with a motorized attack on the enemy. You will notice there's red smoke and green smoke on the battlefield. The red smoke indicates that that's areas where the enemy is, and then the green smoke where the green forces will attack from. Now what also happened is they now came up to a minefield, and we sent a vehicle which we call the Plofadder that sent a rocket-propelled explosives over a large area that then explodes, and it opens up an area where the vehicles can drive through. Now this is a motorized infantry attack, and as you can see at present, the soldiers has disengaged from the infantry fighting vehicles and infantry personnel carriers, and they are now walking next to the vehicles, attacking the enemy with small caliber fire.
So just basically speaking on what we're currently seeing at the moment, you indicated that the red smoke is for indicating where the enemy is.
That is correct, because we also got artillery bombardment that you can hear the whole time. That's 120 millimeter mortars that are being fired on that area where the red smoke is.
And the blue-greenish smoke that we're looking at now?
It's actually green. The green smoke is to indicate where your own forces are now going to engage the enemy from.
Quite a lot of noise here. As I indicated earlier on, that the field that we're currently looking at resembles a war zone. And where we're currently standing from, looking at the troops, I can see there's a line over there. What's happening over there?
Well, the line is the line of advance. You call it your front line of own troops. That is where they are now. So because you're firing, everybody is firing with live ammunition, you have to be in line not to shoot your own forces. I can also just mention that before this, we had a air attack first by the Gripen aircraft, our main fighter, and then also by the Hawk lead-in attack aircraft. This was then followed by the artillery bombardment, as well as mechanized artillery firing, mechanized infantry and armor firing at the enemy positions.
And what was that I just looked at now? That just went up in the sky and landed next to some of the defense force guys that you just mentioned now.
That is, once again, it's flares that you shoot, just to that would simulate if it gets dark. Those flares will give you light at night to see where you're going to and who you're fighting against.
Okay, well, we'll continue with the coverage here from Lohatla, as I indicated earlier on, the African Standby Force, illustrating all the exercises and what they've learned throughout their 3-week stay here in South Africa, in the Northern Cape. And let's just quickly speak about the components of the African Defence Force quickly. We know that there's a civilian component, of course, and there is the police component, and then there is the military component. Just quickly speak us through that.
Yes, certainly. As you rightfully said, there's 3 main components: military, civilian and police. And the scenarios that you work on is a scenario 6. That is a rapid deployment capability, a war fighting capability of the African Union, and that would be mandated by the chairperson of the African Union Commission to say this country is destabilized, you need robust military power to go in there to stabilize the area. So first of all, you would go in there. Once you have stabilized the country, neutralized the enemy or destroyed them, then the more bigger important part will come, which is then the scenario 5. Now, in scenario 5, according to the AU, is then your peace enforcement or peacekeeping capability, and this is much more your civilian and police component. Civilians looking at various aspects from the civilian community, looking at health and protection of children and women, corruption, diseases such as cholera that might break out, and then the police obviously playing a typical police role in this destabilized country that you are now trying to stabilize.
And just for the benefit of our viewers at home, just to get an understanding of the African standby force, is that they are deployed in the 5 regions of Africa, that is east, west, south, north, as well as central. So each region will be getting about 5,000 personnel.
That is correct. Your troop teams will be a brigade size per region of the 5 regions. So yes, in total, when the African Standby Force is totally commissioned, it will be an excess of 25,000 troops.
You know, one thing I had, for instance, is the Rapid Response Unit. What role do they play?
Well, the Rapid Response Unit should be able to deploy in 14 days. Now, that is very, very fast to project a brigade-sized force into a foreign country. But that's the whole idea. You want to minimize the casualties of the civilian population in a war-torn country.
And in case of natural disasters, what role would the African Standby Force play?
Yeah, the African Standby Force is not there to replace other peace support operations and normal disaster management. So that is not its role. However, obviously, if the politicians higher up decide to utilize it in that role, it is their prerogative, and the militaries and the civilian and police components will then just follow orders.
Okay, we'll go back to the technicalities and the composition of the African Standby Force. Right now, let's just focus on what's currently happening on the screen. We can see the military vehicles making some advancement. What's happening now at the moment, and who are these guys? I can see there's a Red Cross on one of the vehicles. Is this the ambulances coming through?
Yes, sir. This is the ambulance, and the other vehicles now, what's happening now is now the attack by the African Standby Force 2, which is Battle Group Bravo. And this forces consist of military personnel from South Africa, Rwanda, Uganda, and Niger. So now they're taking over from another attack from the Rapid Deployment Capability 1.
Well, you mentioned that the different countries seem to have different roles. Is it only because of this illustration or this exercise that is, or does it play it on a different way when, for instance, let's say they are deployed into the different regions? Because now we understand that this is a small team, just about 5,000 personnel who've been here for the training since October the 17th.
Yes, the composition will be more or less what we see here today. So the vehicles is the type of vehicles that will be utilized. The countries is the type of countries, and the role they will play is this type of scenario. When you do exercises, you always want to stay as realistic as possible to the real life scenarios. And although it's not always 100% possible, but that's with everything possible we want to do that. And that is why the composition of these forces would be for SADC region would be more or less as it is now.
And how do you guys decide that? Let's say, for instance, Angola, this is the role that Angola will be playing, and this is the role South Africa will be playing, this is the role that Lesotho will be playing?
This has been decided long ago. So that decision has been made, the staff papers has been written, the plans has been written, and so what we do now is just the execution of those plans. So that has already been decided.
Okay. Well, as I indicated earlier on, that President Jacob Zuma will be delivering the keynote address. That's the second part of the program. We will also hear from the African Union Commissioner for Peace and Security. And I guess all important is whether this the African Standby Force General will be ready for deployment by December.
Yes, you're quite right. This is exactly why this exercise has been held now, to evaluate the state of readiness of the African Standby Force, and also then simultaneously to exercise its rapid deployment capability in order to ascertain the gaps and requirements for achieving full operational capability by the end of December. We from the military side believe we have achieved our objectives. I also believe that the formed police units have, and the civilian component. So yes, now we are ready. Now it's from on the higher political level to make the decisions if, when and where the African Standby Force will deploy.
And just a quick correction there. If you've just joined us, we're speaking to Captain Jaco Tienison. I've been referring him to as General. But thank you so much for all the information that we've been getting from you, Captain. And in terms of airstrikes, what happens there?
Well, the airstrikes obviously will also depend on the areas you're moving in, but once again, as I said, as realistic as possible. So the airstrikes did come in from a fighter aircraft, principal fighter aircraft, the Gripens in this case, followed by lead-in attack fighter aircraft. It's a slightly slower aircraft with more precision gunfire to support the troops on the ground better.